The word qisas truly actually means retaliatory justice. When you retaliate, how should it be done with just means, in justice? Now, before the advent of Islam, Jews and the idol worshippers of Mecca retaliated in very unfair ways. For example, if a slave of a rich and a respectable family was killed, they would kill a free man or a free woman of a lower status family. So there was a difference between justice for people who are rich and higher status compared to justice for the rest of the people. Sometimes they will kill more than one person in retaliation. It was under those circumstances that those verses were revealed. Remember, Islam stands for justice all the time. In every aspect of our life, in every relations in our life, in every matters in our life, we are required to be just. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just, and He wants His servants and His believers to be just as well in all aspects of their life. In some Muslim countries, even now, retaliation for one person killed in a tribe results in wars between tribes. And these wars go on for generations. This is very common, especially from the countries we come from. And the tribal retaliations and revenges go on for generations. And there's never forgiveness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala therefore provided very clear guidance for all people, and especially for the believers, about a just way to take revenge, to just way to retaliate. It is important to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed very specific punishments for some crimes, which are called hudud. And I'm sure you've heard the word. Hudud means it's kind of a criminal justice system, the Sharia of punishment, such as adultery, false accusations of adultery, stealing and drinking. People who commit these crimes, there is a prescribed punishment for them that must be given to them. Qisas is not hudud. Qisas is not a had. It doesn't fall in that category. Why is that so? Why does qisas, somebody kills somebody, somebody injures somebody, why isn't there a prescribed punishment as against those 5 things that I mentioned? Adultery, accusation of adultery, stealing and drinking are such crimes that affects not just 2 people, it affects the whole community. It affects the culture. It creates all kinds of corruption in the culture and in the community. And therefore it must be prevented. It must be stopped. Now, retaliation is allowed, as I said, but it must be a just and fair retaliation. The free for the free, the slave for the slave, the female for the female, the nose for the nose, the eye for the eye. For now, we don't need to really go into all the usul of Sharia and fiqh about retaliation, about qisas, and about the hudud. Right now, this is not important. But one thing is important to know. That is, the act of qisas must be performed by a government-appointed judge. A person or a family cannot take it upon himself or herself to go seeking for qisas. It has to be done in a court of law by an appointed judge. Why is that? The simple reason for that, and most understandable reason for that, is that if it was allowed for the victim's family to take the delivery of the qisas upon themselves, it would be very unlikely for them to remain just. Because they're hurting, emotions are very high, they're looking for revenge, they're looking for hurting this person that has hurt their family member, and it will be difficult for them to remain just. Which is why it has been ordained that this justice should be done by an appointed justice in the criminal justice system, Islamic criminal justice system. Unlike the hudud, where there is no option but to deliver the punishment to the perpetrator. In qisas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the liberty and the freedom to the victim's family to either retaliate and take life for life, or to forgive and ask for compensation. Once an amount of compensation has been agreed upon, the perpetrator and his family must abide by it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has encouraged forgiving and settling for a compensation to promote mercy in people towards each other. The last part of the verse is very important to understand. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِسَاسِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. O people of understanding, so that you may refrain, contains the wisdom behind this dictate of Islam. There's some wisdom why qisas has been ordained. It has the law of qisas ensures protection of life. Protection of life is very important. If there was no allowance for retaliation, then people would just go free and do whatever they want to do. Other people often question, other nations, other religions, and even Muslims often question about the rules of justice, criminal justice system in Islam. How can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so merciful, condemn people to such harsh punishment? It was interesting. I heard in a lecture from one of these scholars, a very well-known scholar, a professor from one of the universities went to him and he asked him the question about why is Islam so harsh in the punishments of these 5 things that I just mentioned. He said to him, before I answer the question, I would like you to do a survey of these 5 crimes that you just mentioned, and find out how many of these crimes were committed in those countries. All of you European countries, America, Canada, wherever. He said, all right. Now that information is available on the internet. If you Google how many people were murdered in Canada in last year, you would get the information. How many robberies were committed, you will get the information. All the crimes are documented, especially those that go through the court. And they have the data on them. So he collected all this data and he came back. And the rate of those crimes were in thousands every year. In America, they said that a man is killed every 11 minutes. A woman is raped every 5 minutes, so on and so forth. He says, now, go and compare these statistics to Saudi Arabia, for example, or to one of the Muslim countries. When he did it, there was significant difference in the numbers of these crimes committed in those countries where there was Islamic law and in the Western countries, who take so much pride in their system to be so just. You know, the Western justice system is geared towards protecting the perpetrator. It's geared towards protecting the rights of the perpetrators. Am I right or wrong? They will be provided all the help they need. And there are lots of people who will speak on their behalf to make sure that the perpetrators, the criminals, receive proper justice. And they would get highest paid lawyers, defense lawyers, to find loopholes in their criminal law to get these people not be punished. And among those, the laws that are very, very, very often used are the person is mentally not well. It's a very common defense where no other defense will work. It is proven that the guy has committed the murder, that the guy has killed so many people. They say, oh, he was mentally ill at the time. And you'll find all kinds of psychiatrists who would give witness to say, yeah, he was not thinking right at that time. You know, the guy, if you remember, a few years ago, this young guy took a machine gun kind of a thing and went on a shooting spree. I don't remember the name of the state that it was in, if anybody remembers it. In US. In US. Happens every day. A kid picks up the gun, goes to school, and starts shooting randomly. It happens, it's an everyday thing. Now, most of these kids are not punished because they're just kids. As a matter of fact, adults use kids to perform these crimes because it will not be on their record because they're kids, and they will not be severely consequenced. It's a mockery of justice system. And by the time a case goes to court, it may be years. Their justice is not swift. Any case that goes to court to be heard by a judge, they are short staff on judges, they are short staff on lawyers, and any case could go on for years. Simple cases like divorce cases, for example, that I know most of. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years to settle a divorce case. And criminal cases may go on for way longer. The longer it goes on, the more difficult it is to prove. Because you need witnesses, right? And you cannot possibly remember what happened 5 years ago. Exactly. And if they keep asking you the same question to give your verdict of what happened over 5 years, it will change a bit. It would not be exactly the same. And that's all they need. That the witness is giving different kinds of information. So what are we to believe? And this is used very often as a ploy to get the criminal off from punishment. Then there is a dual kind of a justice system, one for the rich, one for the no rich, not rich. Do you know that in these countries, known criminal gangs, big criminal gangs, they have the highly paid, very famous lawyers on retainer. You know what retainer is? A retainer is when you pay thousands of dollars to a lawyer to be present for them, to be available for them any time of the day or night they want. And These lawyers' jobs are basically to find ways to get them off the hook and not be punished. And they call it the justice system. And then, whenever they like, the president of the country may choose to pardon the criminals and let them go. We are not looking at what Biden is doing. Those are those who keep up with the news. He has released lots and lots and lots of convicted prisoners. And we know what Trump is going to do when he comes. When Donald Trump becomes the president, he has already said that he's going to forgive all those who are convicted criminals and give them pardon. And Donald Trump would himself be pardoned because he's a convicted criminal in many cases. Is this what we call justice system? They take pride in this justice system, and they are so quick to criticize Islamic justice system. You know, there's a saying even in their own justice system. Justice delayed is justice denied. Have you heard of this? They teach you in the law. Children upstairs, please. If you can control them, Jazakallah khair. Justice delayed is justice denied. Now, if you use this motto that they use in teaching their justice system and say, now, the justice that you're doing, is this justice or a denial of justice? They would have no answer. You know the rule of the Islamic Sharia, Islamic criminal code? The rule is, number one, it has to be fair. It has to be it has to be fair to both parties. There have to be reliable witnesses. And witnesses, if they give false witnesses, must be punished as well. It closes the door for people bribing other people to give wrong, false justices. And the justice should be swift. Once the crime has been committed and the crime has been proven to the satisfaction of the judge, the justice should be swift. You should not put people in the jails forever and ever and ever. Look at the jails in the Western countries. They are overpopulated. They just don't know what to do with these prisoners. Tremendous amount of money is spent in their budgets to house and to feed and supposedly rehabilitate these criminals. And many of them, when they're released, they do recommit. What's the use of this justice system? What's the use of these jails? Why would you keep a person in a jail, not punish him, not do the punishment, let him go so that he can live his life, but put it upon the public money? Public money. All these jails and the criminals that are being fed and housed and all the programs for them is your and my money. It comes from our taxes. Use our money to house and feed these criminals and try to rehabilitate them.
Healthcare and dental care too.
Healthcare, dental care, TV, they should have everything.
And corporations actually exploit those people as well.
That's
They
right.
underpay them and work them out, get them to do more work. One interesting thing, one of my professors in my university, he used to be involved in cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how there was a trend, all of the items said not tested on animals. So, and to get that done, they tested on prisoners.
Prisoners are used big times for their research. And because they will pay for them, they'll pay them for this, they take the risk of whatever the negative consequences of that research may be. You want to ask this question, sir? Yes.
You have a point anything can be solved. Without all these jails, it's like they're being treated like animals.
That's right.
Just,
That's right.
they're not even eating things that are well. Not even getting enough nutrition. They're getting sick quickly. There's problems
That's right.
happening in jails.
That's right. It's overpopulated. Then crimes in the jail.
Populated.
There's more crimes in the jail. The criminals fighting each other.
True, there's fighting, there's abuse that happens in jails.
So all these kinds of things that the young brother is saying is true. It's happening in the jail. But the thing is, they still take pride in this justice system. They still say, we have the best justice system in this world. Like I mentioned, Islam's principle is fairness to both parties, justice swift and timely, and done with. You're just done with it. You just paid your price, you took the consequences, and you're done. Go live your life. And the other thing is, children upstairs, please. Mothers, please control them. In any case, the other thing which is important in the Islam's Sharia criminal court system is that the punishment should be given publicly. The punishment should be given publicly. And the Westerners say, oh, that's so humiliating. Why would you humiliate a person publicly? It's not humiliation. It is not to humiliate the person who committed the crime. It is to teach others what's going to happen if they commit a crime. This is how Allah says, like I read the verse, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِسَاسِ حَيَاةٌ. There's life, there's protection of life in this dictate of Qisas. When a person sees the other person being given the punishment publicly, he knows or she knows, you're not going to get away from this. You are going to suffer the consequences. And there is no upper class or preferred class or lower class. Everybody is the same. You remember the hadith when some sister had, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had stolen something. And the case was brought to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for justice. And somebody came, the case was not heard yet. And somebody came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, this woman, this sister belongs to such and such chief tribe. Maybe you can get some mercy and maybe not give her the punishment that is mandatory in the Quran about it. He said, Wallahi, if my daughter Fatima had committed it, I would give her the same punishment. That is the proud beauty of Islamic justice system. It's not that this family is the king's family, or this family is the prime minister's family, or this family is such and such rich person's family. It's justice for all. This is why this famous thing about whenever they have the scale and a blind lady holding it, and they say the justice is blind. It doesn't see who is white, who is black, who is rich, who is poor, belongs to the king's family and who belongs to a poor merchant's family. It doesn't make any differentiation. Yes.
In Islam, there's no exceptions, right? Because a few weeks ago, Biden pardoned his son, even though he was convicted of crime. His White House said that in the long line interfered, and he ended up interfering, pardoning his son.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Biden pardoned his son.
Yes,
And that's what he's saying, that
Even though he said he wouldn't interfere.
that's right. So, the thing is, they speak from a snake tongue. two sides of their mouth. One for the public, one for themselves. They say the right things for the public and they do what they want to do for themselves. So, you know, and all of us know, and the whole Western world knows, that the justice system in these countries is flawed, has been for centuries. And yet, we Muslims in the Muslim countries choose to follow their laws in our Islamic courts, their system. This is the shame. This is the shame that we all bear. That we follow their justice system in our courts and not our own. May Allah forgive us. Anyways, would there ever be an Islamic justice system, Islamic Sharia? I think not, in not near future. Only the time of when Isa ﷺ returns to this earth, when Jesus ﷺ returns to this earth, there will be justice. When Mahdi ﷺ is returned, there will be justice. But until that time, things are going to keep getting worse. There's nothing we can do about it. But we need to understand, especially teach our young children, to know what Islamic justice system is, what it stands for, what are the rules, and what is the wisdom in that justice system. Is it really cruel and harsh? Is it really, really like have no mercy? Or is it the most merciful? Our children and most of us will not understand it if we don't study this and don't understand this properly. Now the question is, like I said, there's nothing we can do about changing the world. But here's the question. How are we going to deal with these perpetrators, bad people, bad kids, who bully our kids at the school, who do harmful and unjust things to us? How are we to deal with them? Yes?
The answer to your question is let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes people to teach them, not to abuse them, like seen in the jails.
What is your name, son?
Yahya.
Yahya. My dear son, there will be punishment at the end of this world, in Akhirah.
Exactly.
In Akhirah, everybody would have to pay the price of how they behave like.
Yes.
But there has to be some punishment here as well.
True. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of it all.
At the end.
Punishment in the afterlife and just a bit on the earth.
And on the bit on the earth, we have to do our part of it. Because Allah is not going to come to punish him here.
Exactly.
Yes, so wait now. So now the question is, what happens like Taha goes to school, and Yahya goes to school, and there are some kids who are bullying him. And he's, they gang up on him, they hurt him or they beat him. What is he supposed to do? What would you teach him? You have to defend yourself. You can't just be staying there and taking and says, oh, be kind to them. They don't know what they're doing. They're poor kids, just be kind to them. If you are kind to people who are doing wrong, you encourage them to continue to do wrong. Please understand this. If you allow people and forgive people who know they are doing wrong, and you make excuses for them, oh, they're just kids, oh, he's so poor, oh, he's not well, just let it go, don't worry about it. You encourage that behavior. And therefore, you are going to be held accountable for this as well. This is very important to remember. In our relationships, for example, there has to be fairness and justice in our relationships. When there is problems between husbands and wives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran how to deal with it, am I right? You talk to them, each other, you try to solve the problem, You try to separate yourself from each other. If you need to punish them as well. These are all the steps of how to manage these things in home. So, in a relationship, everything that Allah has prescribed for us truly has wisdom in it. If there is a problem between husband and wife, and if the wife or the husband says, "Oh, I just let go. I don't want to make big of it. I'll just be patient. Allah will give me the reward for it in the day of judgment." She encourages her husband to keep abusing her. Believe me, he would never stop by himself. Unless there's a consequence that he knows that there's going to be consequences of my being unfair and unjust to my wife, he would not stop. So you know what I would do? If a wife comes to me and says, "My husband is very abusive, he beats me up, he calls me name, he dishonors me in front of other people, and all kinds of other things," and I said, "So sister, what are you doing?" What can I do? I do nothing. And that's why I'm depressed. And I'm suicidal. Nobody's there to support me. When I go to my parents, they say, "SubhanAllah, be patient, you'll get the Jannah at the end." If you make it to Jannah, number one. And where would that be? And until then you'll die suffering? Is that Islamic justice? Is that fair? Absolutely not. It's absolutely not. I would suggest to the sister, I said, you are contributing to your abuse. You are actually contributing to your abuse by not taking a stand. So I tell them, I said, "Is your husband willing to talk to me?" And they never are. They never are willing to talk to me because they don't have a problem. So what I tell them is two things. I said, number one, I want you to talk to your husband and tell him that I have spoken to Dr. Sadiq for help, and he says that he cannot even help me without talking to you, so that he's fair in his assessment of what's happening. And if he says, "No, I don't want to talk to him," then tell him, "I cannot take this life anymore. I'm not willing to put up with this anymore. If you're not willing to seek help and work with me, then I'm willing to make new choices." Now that makes me think. Now that makes them think, "Oh my God, what happened now? She's not going to take it anymore. There's going to be a consequence. Somebody in the community, a professional, will find out what I'm doing. I better talk to somebody." And they generally come to talk. The second thing I suggest is that if he ever beats you up physically, right away call 911. Please. Because that is not fair. Am I right? A husband beating up his wife for 8 years, how would that be fair? How would that be right? How would that be right with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I would call the police and make sure that when they come, you don't back off. You tell them how it is. Wallahi, as soon as they find out that she's going to call 911, anytime I'm going to raise my hand on her, he would stop. Because now there's a fear of retaliation. That's why retaliation is important in our faith, and there's a rule. There's a whole verse of Quran about it. Verses of Quran about it. As true, there is life in retaliation, or people who wisdom, who will think and understand. So, very important lessons that we can learn from these simple verses of the Quran that we read so many times and really don't pay attention. And I'm going to stop here for questions if you have any. All good? Alhamdulillah. So inshallah we'll continue with inshallah next Friday. Inshallah with Surah Baqarah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from such people and living with such people and not doing anything about it. And may Allah give us the wisdom to learn our faith properly. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. ربنا تقبل منا صلاتنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا ودعاءنا يا رب. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الميزان. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم اغفر لأمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم ارحم أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم أصلح أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم تجاوز عن أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم فازم اللهم انصر بكل مكان من كل سوء الله. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان ولك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم. الله أكبر.